Hey everyone, this is the Kubeflow Notebooks meeting for the 6th of August 2026. Getting very close to the release of the beta for Notebooks V2, so that's what the meeting is going to be very focused on. We're waiting for one or two people to come to so we can do the normal kind of update tracking. But while we're here, we just have a lot of new people, so I'd just love to see if anyone wants to quickly unmute themselves and say hi and see what brings them to the meeting today. We kind of keep it capped at 5 minutes, but Harsh, you've got your hand up first. Why not? Hi.
Uh, Hi Matthew, I am Harsh from India, currently pursuing BTech in Triple IT Kota, and I am contributing on Kubeflow since last couple of months. I have contributed in SDK, trainer, and pipeline, and I have joined the meeting of them. And this is the first meeting for me about the Kubeflow, and I am glad to have experienced people like you and many other maintainer. Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Anyone else want to say hi before we get started? Lots of other new names, so
You
you can
know,
also say hi. Oh, hi. Yeah.
yeah, you know me, you know my colleague as well. So we are good.
Awesome. Yeah. We had a chat in another separate meeting, but yeah, thanks for joining. Is there anything you wanted to add to the agenda or just watching for today? Because we've got a lot of stuff we need to talk about. But I know you had some stuff you were working on that was very good feedback for as a user. So um
Yeah, I did share the comment onto that, and you replied. I don't think so. You replied onto that. I did share some comment. We had
oh,
some
on
use.
the issue itself.
Yeah, on the PR itself.
So let's take this offline and start a thread
Sure,
in
sure,
the
sure, sure.
Spark operator
100%.
thread. So
100%.
essentially, yeah. So let's tag and can you tag Andre and me and I'll make and maybe so, and I'll make sure the maintainers of the Spark operator get tagged. But essentially, for everyone's context, just as a user feedback, there was kind of a very confusing piece of documentation on the website that suggested using Kubeflow notebooks with Spark operator using a very old tool. It hasn't been updated in a long time, and so now that the Kubeflow SDK, which is our Python thing, exists, we want that to be the premier way of connecting notebooks and other parts of the project, and especially Spark Operator. So we're going to make sure we document that, and so obviously this connects to the Notebooks V2 release because it connects to V1 as well, to be clear. But like as we're planning to have a section on the website that explains how to do X thing with Notebooks V2, Spark Operator is one of those things. So I didn't even know that we had a docs page on the website about using I think it's Enterprise Gateway, Jupyter Enterprise Gateway, but it was like
Yeah,
essentially it's not really maintained, so it's not like not really a good it's not a good experience because and it's not
don't worry about it.
necessary.
Yeah,
It's
don't worry
also
about
not
it. That. Let's talk about it offline. Yeah.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
want.
so if anyone wants to join that, there'll be a thread in the Spark Operator Kubeflow CNCF channel. So for people who don't know how to do that, the way you get there, if you found this meeting, you probably already know, but go to kubeflow.org, community, join the CNCF Slack, and then this one is Spark on Kubernetes, actually, it looks like. But I think it's been renamed, hasn't it? Uh, it hasn't apparently. We should rename it. Okay, cool. So, anyone else want to say hi quickly? I've got like 1 more minute. Who's the most eager to say hi? Anyone? Okay, cool. I'm gonna kick off the thing now. So, obviously, the most important thing we're doing is working towards the beta. The beta's target is the day. I want to have it shipped in a usable-ish form. Again, we'll qualify it, saying not production use, before the virtual event, so that we can use that as a marketing opportunity for people to try it out. In terms of what's actually blocking that right now, there are only a couple of things. Of course, anything that directly impacts the user experience of an admin or even more so of a data scientist or AI researcher is the first priority, right? So and there's one other thing that's a slightly higher priority as well, but again, there's only one instance of this, which is anything which would cause an upgrade of Notebooks V2 to require deleting and reinstalling the whole thing, essentially. So that level of breaking change I want to avoid during the beta if possible. We'll do it if necessary, but because that means people would have to completely disrupt all of their dev work, that's really bad. And so, for example, the one thing, unless anyone else can think of another category so this is a call to action for people. If they can think of something else that would cause this, please tell me. But the one thing that we're going to do that we know would cause that is breaking CRD changes, essentially. So things where fields are being removed. because we don't want to bother building conversion webhooks between versions that are not even declared versions of the CID. That's crazy. So we're going to do one thing that's going to look a bit weird just before we cut the beta if we haven't finished it, which is there's a CID change we're planning for the service account section of the workspace kind. We're going to remove that essentially. And so even though there is going to be a replacement coming in the next week, we're going to remove it now and just hard code it as default editor, even though it's not, even though in the future it's going to be randomly generated service accounts and also generated control cluster role bindings and role bindings. But so if we can get that in before, that's great. But the actual implementation behind that, but at very least, there's no during the dev purpose. This is a dev phase tool like beta, no production clusters. So I don't think that's a big risk. Okay, and so as we go through these things, let's keep this in mind. Let's just do status updates for everyone who's owning features that block the release. And then we'll go to action items. There's some action items from last week, but yeah, so let's quickly go through the board first. Any other leads want to say anything before we do that? Tracking board, there we go. So there's a tracking board on Kubeflow. We do that every time. Here, so we usually track things by features. We have epics, features, and tasks. Tasks are actual units of work. Features have defined kind of acceptance criteria, and they're owned by specific people. So who owns this top one? See, there's a no owner on this one. Slugging for workspace names. This is actually a really important user change. So I know that you made this one, Christian, but are you wanting to own this?
Yeah, so this is kind of the topic that I maybe wanted to discuss quickly. Most of the work that is remaining on this feature is front-end related. And so overall, of course, I can drive the feature and give a lot of feedback and review things, but I'm not really confident in doing the implementation in the front-end side of things. And
That's absolutely fine. So
yeah.
So the feature owner, in fact, this is a good thing for everyone to know. You don't have to do the work if you're the feature owner. Of course, sometimes it's a happy accident that you do both, but the feature owner is kind of like the project manager for that thing, right? Essentially, they make sure that there is people who are capable of doing the work assigned, that they have the time to do it. They might be busy, and unassigning people if they're busy. And also just like knowing where their feature sits in the context of release and things like that. So if you're okay with that, I'm going to assign you as that owner then.
Yeah, I was about to ask, the main other person that would make sense is Charles. Charles, any thoughts?
Okay,
Should
Charles.
I do it? Does it make sense if you do it?
I can take a look at it, but I can do the implementation, but
yeah, that's why
it's okay if you own it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's better to have two people anyway, so then there's two people watching it. Okay, cool. So let's go down the list. We're not going to go very long. We're going to keep this to like 5 minutes unless we really hit something we need to discuss. So this is important. This is like P0 for front end to some extent, unless I'm misunderstanding something. We'll come to Charles. Are you aware of anything higher priority than this in the front end?
I don't think so.
So the reason why this is highest priority is because it's directly user experience impacting in a way that is very big, which is that users should not have to understand what a valid CRD resource name is. So yes. Okay, so let's make sure we get a task there. Yep. Christian, are you confident that we'll hit this one before the beta as a result of this?
Yeah.
Okay,
we can
cool.
Figure something out.
On track. Oh, I did accidentally. Cool. Okay. Front end exposes with node. I don't know why this is a beta blocker, but I think it's. Andy, are you here?
I don't think Andy's here, but I think overall the implementation here is almost done. I think there were some other tasks that were blocking this, but the PR that Sneha has raised is I think there were just CI failures at this point.
Okay. Let's move on from this. I don't think this is a blocker, so I mean, this is really important for beta at some point, but not 2 weeks from now. So, okay, let's move on. So, it's not really off track. I'm just going to move it to 2.0. Okay. Okay. This one absolutely critical. The first aspect of this is the one I was just talking about, which has to be done as soon as possible. I know that you've already raised this PR. Christian, do you want to, is this just ready to merge essentially? Did you also add the new sections or did you just remove the old one?
I just removed the old ones.
Okay, cool. So we need to get some eyes on this one from like someone who can actually do the implementation. Like getting this in will allow us to do a demo that is much better, essentially, for beta. Like without this, we can't easily integrate with trainer, which is a demo that we really would love to do. So yeah. So who was assigned to this one originally? I mean, the owner of the feature, who's the owner of the feature here?
I don't think there is a owner of this feature right now. Jeff at least said on Slack.
I'm just going to assign you for now, but you can you can make sure that it's not about, because if Jeff isn't responsive right now, then it's better to have someone who is right now monitoring the feature. But I agree that if Jeff is willing to do the work, let's see if he's available. And if he's not, let's find someone else, because there's many people who would be capable of doing this. So,
yeah. Yeah, okay. I can own this for the time being and coordinate with Jeff, as we said on Slack.
Yeah. So make sure let's get a task assigned for. I mean, this one doesn't need a task. We just merge this, but we need to like let's spin up the tasks for the various phases of this as we'd expect. So in this case, it's like it will break the front end as well, so we could be careful of that. But we don't need the front end part to be working. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yep.
Okay. And then actually, let's just while we're writing notes here, can we add a task at the end of this to just do a quick test with trainer or something? You know, just like binding, like manually updating a workspace to bind a custom role that allows you to Kubeflow into a trainer head node, essentially. Yeah,
I will take a note on the thing and then define a task for it.
Because then we can put it as a doc, essentially. Just like, and it can be manual kubectl applying an update to the workspace. That's fine. And so Andre put an example manifest in our channel a couple of weeks ago, if you just scroll up a bit, where he showed an MPI kind of head node plus multi-node worker situation, where it's not going to create the role that we need to bind. So you need to also just create it as an example. But I think that is one of the things that I would love to demo during the conference on the 10th. So that's the 19th. So if we do a demo, so we might just do like photos, but okay. So on track, maybe not. I'm going to say at risk. Okay. Filter rules. Okay. So I think I've seen lots of work on this. It seems like there's a lot of things going on. Andy's not here, but
sorry,
yes.
I'm very late.
You're good. Okay. So what's the status on this one? We're trying to go kind of snap through these at the moment. Oh, hello.
I think Gang was trying to say something and
Oh, Gan?
Yeah, because I saw Andy is here, so
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so I've given I've got a lot of first rounds of reviews on stuff, so I just need to go through and recheck PRs, quite honestly. So I know like Gang, we have something there, stuff on activity rules, stuff on pod metrics, stuff on logs. So I've gotten initial reviews on all of them. Most of the comments, there's no significant architectural issues. It was all just random alignments and weird edge case testing. So I plan on doing a second pass on as many of these PRs that I've reviewed today, and I would imagine some of them are, probably going to be merge ready after this second pass.
So the thing I want to get my head around is this, so the controller changes, have they been merged? Sorry, the CRD changes, have they been merged?
No,
Not yet.
this is the CRD changes.
Yeah, because this is a great, and I guess the question is, do we think any aspect of the actual implementation will be ready by the beta launch?
I mean,
So,
hard
like-
to say. Like I said, I mean, this it's just availability in time, right? I think Swan's done a really nice job on the activity rules PR, which fundamentally that like back end implementation is more or less identical to what this is. So it's like if we land like Swan's PRs, which again, I think from my initial review, there was no significant issues with them, just like minor cosmetic stuff to fix up. Like that creates a golden path scenario for these filter rules to sweep in. I mean, certain implementation details are different, but like architecturally, the profile is identical. So
like this, I would say, is one of the most important user features to explain. And so like I need to be able to explain this, even if it's like hand wavy during the beta, right? This capability is critical for V2 to explain one of the reasons why we designed it the way we did. So like, is there any way to get some, so like I just want to, I'm not going to say we need to do it, but like, what is the probability that a week from now we have some aspect of this beyond just the CID spec in an example merge?
Yeah, I mean, I can make it. And I apologize. I've had some like personal life stuff, and I've been sick this
No, no,
week, so
no, no, no.
timing
That's
has
not.
been
Don't worry about
horrendous.
that. Yeah, yeah. So like, just do you
But
think
yeah,
it can
so
happen?
this is like I feel confident merge this afternoon, right? So the CRD stuff is we'll get that done. So then, gang, I guess like the question is like, do you feel comfortable? And then I'll make sure to prioritize reviewing of this. But I think like consulting with like Sawan and the fine work she's done, I do think that follow-up PR to like land the implementation of processing these. If you feel like you have cycles, it shouldn't be like a giant lift. But I don't want
So
to
my
speak
concern
for
here
you.
is, isn't the activity rules in the controller and this is in the backend? Like this implementation is done. Actually, this implementation is done in the backend, right? Like essentially the backend is the part that needs to serve the information, right? Unless you're planning on.
Yeah, so sorry, I'm not saying like I'm just saying functionally the method of using like the selectors and processing these rules. Yeah, yeah. So it's not sorry,
Okay.
it is not a code sharing thing, but it's just the patterns to solve this problem. Sawan will have established those patterns, right? There's a
Okay,
good
cool.
baseline to implement and review against.
And so I guess my question then is just for the front end people, we've already got them using the value selector tools, right? So essentially the new API, even though it just serves hidden true false with always hidden not being hidden, you know what I mean? Essentially as soon as the backend starts respecting these rules, will the front end work? That's kind of my question.
Right,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
because the hidden field is already inherently there, right? So
Because we're only planning on, well, we're going to do hide and deny, I guess, but like the initial version is just hidden, right?
restrictions are there, but yeah, front end support. Well, I've been talking with Charles about that, but I won't speak for him on that. But the hide stuff absolutely will be there
Okay.
because it's already wired in.
I wonder if we could just like do something very basic on the deny that pretends like it's going to deny but doesn't actually deny, on the front end, or something like that. But okay, because yeah, the reason for this is just I think it's a very powerful explanation for the feature being like, hey, here's AMD or TPU versus GPU kind of image. Don't accidentally have your users choose the wrong one anymore kind of situation. It's a very powerful
Yep.
kind of thing. Any other updates here? So do we think we're on track to? Oh, gang, you're muted. I'm gone. Sorry, don't worry. Okay, are we
Sorry,
good to move on
a
here?
little sorry, what was the question?
Oh no, I'm just checking you had unmuted, so I just assumed you had something to say.
So I guess specifically the question is, do you feel like if we get this CRD change merged today, do you feel like you can like flow into the 846 or 847 issues?
Yeah, I actually I was looking at the 846 one. Yeah. So I think I just checked the PR status. Seems like the CRD PR has been merged. But I also see that the comment said we need to have some follow-up PR to fix one issue.
Oh, it does look like
Oh,
something
thanks.
was merged.
Sorry. I can't remember what PRs I've merged or not.
Okay, cool. Anyway, let's follow up offline. That doesn't need
Yep.
to be talked about here. That's cool. So I'm going to say this is on track still. Now front end version of this as well. What is necessary to not necessarily implement it perfectly, but just get the vibe across, essentially, is my kind of question here. Charles or Andy? So they've got a bunch of tasks here.
So right now I am personally handling actually, yeah, I'm doing that restriction piece that allow the admin to define the restrictions and because the workspace filtering the workspace kind using the restriction object. I think yeah, that one. Yeah, that's
I think the workspace kind is also interesting. I guess that's I'd say in terms of prioritization, this one is higher, like the options. But workspace kind filtering is also interesting because admins will want to say, maybe sometimes. But like there's two very powerful features that let us demo here if we have these filter rules. One is that I don't want everyone in my company to be able to use, I don't know, GB300 GPUs. And separately, I don't want so maybe only certain team namespaces or users and things, that's kind of a very important story. and then the other one
Yeah.
is making sure that users don't accidentally connect to incorrect options, right? So I guess we already have the hidden concept. So I guess are we just saying that this works right now already?
I've been actually focusing on activity rules. So like for filter rules, I'm a little bit behind at the moment.
What I'm saying is, I think as long as you're using the correct endpoints, I think it should just work, Charles. I
Yeah,
think
it
the only
should.
part
It
that
should.
won't is the deny aspect. But actually, quick question there. Did we don't have any text for hidden, we just hide, right? We don't actually explain why it's
Correct.
hidden. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
cool.
think so.
So are we on track to, I mean, it looks like this is already just going to work. So I'm a little bit confused. Oh no, so the deny aspect, but this is actually likely to be a 404 message anyway. So like,
So should
or
we not render that then for the moment?
so I guess this is the question. We need to decide this. Let's start a thread on the Slack and we can discuss it. What actually the minimum front end aspect here is. Because I don't think we have time to talk about it here. So,
Sure.
I think if this could theoretically be done already, is kind of my brain, right? If deny message is just the 404 message, you know what I mean? Like, and then they're not even allowed to choose it. Or maybe it's not. No, sorry, I just realized there was a discussion around using deny message to say prompting the user, you need to ask your admin for approval kind of situation. You know what I mean? So like the question is hidden and deny equals true is slightly different than deny equals true only. Essentially, deny equals true is like is almost like you're allowed to know about this, but it's you need to do something or something. You know what I mean? Like whereas both of them together is like a category of thing we don't have right now, which is it actually the user shouldn't know about it, essentially. You know. But okay.
Okay. Yep.
We need to think about that because it's the back end which kind of serves your thing there. So anyway, Charles, do you have any updates on the front end aspect that you were working on, like the admin?
No, I was sorry, I was mistaking it with activity rules. I have more update for that than filter rules at the moment.
Okay, cool. So Andy, I guess let's just make sure that we do some spike, right? Like that's just kind of the doesn't need to be beautiful. It just needs to be like we need to have the story in our mind about, like I think that's the example that we're presenting during the conference being like, hey, restrict certain options to certain teams or users. Great, that's a really good story. Prevent accidentally using the wrong images. That's a good story. And then I think this kind of preventing one that we talked about first, I think there is this separate aspect of that story, which is like prompt your users for approval, essentially, which I do think that is quite an interesting one. So if we don't have to get that one in, but that seems like a reasonable story, I think. Okay. Activity rules. So backend for that. The win.
Backend is on track. So there are 2 PRs open, and then I'm still addressing some of the comments, but there's nothing major.
Amazing. So where are we at with this? Like we've got the controller CRD changes merged, and the actual probes themselves are in progress.
Yeah, the actual controller change is in progress.
Amazing. And we feel like this is, are we happy with the implementation and the way it's being done? Because I think as we're implementing it, this would be the first time we've kind of done this. So is this seeming like it's going to land as a good, useful feature essentially in your mind?
Yeah, I think so. It's
cool. Andy, do you want to say something? Sorry, you had mute for a second.
Oh no! I said that like ultimately, I mean, I'm pretty happy with it. I think Swan had pointed out we can get the back end merged independent of the controller. So both of those we've gotten reviews on, but I think it totally makes sense to me. If you want to give a look, time being important though, Matthew, to weigh in on some of the controller stuff is like using
I won't do that.
Is just like a new pattern, but like everything being implemented, the decisions Swan made complete sense to me. Modulo, like I said, minor fringe things that don't invalidate the architecture. So I thought it looked robust and sound. So I'm ready to move on it as she has time to, like I said, address some of these feedbacks that aren't critical or like require significant rework.
So what do you think do you have in your mind the story that we should tell from this feature initially? Like obviously it's reclaiming unused resources and things like that. And I think there's one aspect of this that's incredibly interesting that I just want to like what we should while you're building it, we should think about how we want to present it. But there's something which you can do with this that you couldn't do previously, and that is say that certain characteristics of the workspace define what its timeouts are, essentially, right? So the CRD changes that we have allow you to say these namespaces don't even get filtered or things like that. So I think that's also a great story for the users to learn about during the presentations of various things. It might be a little bit complex for the first presentation, but do you have any thoughts about like what like in similar we were talking about the minimum kind of story for the filter rules? What do you think the most compelling minimum story is for this, if you have one in your mind?
Like if you have a default pausing rules, and then you for like high priority training jobs, you probably don't want to pause it. Like you can override it with the activity rules by like matching rules. That's pretty easy to can be done. Like for
Yeah. Okay, cool. Do we and we should probably think about documenting it as well, obviously, as we start putting the docs up. But yeah, I think we're going to have a section on the website called like advanced usage, advanced admin kind of usage, and I think this would be what a category of that, right?
Yeah, and also do want to like maybe get people excited about maybe in the future we'll support like step pause and restore features. This is the
that is actually a really good point. Like making sure we have a place in the docs at very least to point users towards that discussion. You know, I've had many discussions with people and various maintainers of Kubernetes around what it means to pause and restore. I know we had some work on it. There was a couple of different architectures we talked about, not just necessarily using the one that the kubelet is working on because it kind of causes GPU issues, but like the aspect of snapshotting at least the container file system state, you know what I mean? Even if not the process state. So I think that so if you want to, so I don't know if maybe just so that we can start so we had some notes about it. I can also just dump what I remember of it, and if you want to, I don't think it needs to be in this feature. It probably should be a new feature, right? But
yeah.
If you
But
want
this
to
is
help
the
write
basis
up,
for it.
yeah. So let's start a thread again in the notebooks thing, and me and Christian worked on it a while ago for some ideas for how to do it. But also since we've now got more people from the Kubernetes and kubelet and I'm assuming containerd and stuff in the calls, it seems like a lot of these snapshotting features are designed around security analytic stuff or migration of like pods, but it's a little bit more complex if the container image is 40 gigs and you just wanted to persist like I've apt installed something, like or
Yeah.
but I think
Yeah,
there was
there are a lot
one
of
other
things
feature.
need to,
Yeah, you go.
yeah, there are a lot of things that needs to be figured out if we decide to do it. But
Cool. Yeah, let's at least just start a thread where people can kind of share their maybe let's think about it from the I don't know exactly what will be in that thread, so maybe it's not the right time yet, but let's maybe just try and track that we want to do that somewhere.
Yeah, overall, I think the idea has been that Suan and I take a look at this once we're done with the beta, because we both kind of have some interest in the topic, and then I guess we can collect further ideas on the feature requests that I shared on this topic some while ago, and just progress that into maybe a actual feature and not just a feature request.
I think there's I just want to highlight for people here who are watching, there's two very distinct aspects to the idea of restoring. One of which is essentially related to these activity rules, and one is which is really not, which is I want to take the running state of a notebook and like copy it essentially, right? That's the secondary category. Or like I want to, I'm a professor at a university. I don't really want to think about making hundreds of images. I don't really know how to do that. I'm going to open a notebook, set it up for the users, you know what I mean? And then snapshot it and then replicate it to my whole class. That's a different use case, but is conceptually similar. I think we did talk about the implementations that would be necessary to do that. I think from a like making it safe to just stop a notebook, I think that's going to be really hard. but we'll have to anyway. So moving on. So that's good. So do we think we're on track for activity rules in terms of full delivery by the beta?
Yeah, for the backend part, yes. But for the front end part,
Yeah, I mean, I think like just getting like the YAML support in there in the front end is there, but like any sort of like formed experience, I think would be like firmly out of scope. We haven't really talked about what that would mean.
We will at least reflect the activity kind of probe last probe information though, right?
Yes.
Like
yeah, last
if it was
activity there,
failing.
but there's no information about when this is gonna be called.
Yeah, so I think like similar that we did in like secrets, it's probably just the best we can hope for in the short term is like a hover icon that just lists all the various other timestamps.
I think we
Yeah.
briefly discussed, I don't know if we had it in the API, but like an eligible off. No, it's like, you know what I mean? Like eligible
Yeah,
after situation.
it's all there. Eligible after last run. I mean, we have like a million timestamps we do return now. So
I guess it's highlighting the right ones to the front end is probably just like the one question because it shouldn't be that difficult to just add it to the row on the table, right? Or something.
well, but I mean, there's like so many different ones that can be useful. So yeah, it's just I guess that's probably just another Slack thread to spin up and agree. I mean, I think we already have what last updated is a column in the table right now. So it's like we just need to figure out what to do with all this info.
Especially having a bunch of timestamps, they can be quite long, right? So I think it's thinking about maybe the best way to represent that. It feels like a UI kind of, and it also might be different for each user. I think we've talked about having variable columns a couple of times, right? But like, I feel like we're just not thinking quite yet about the right, but I'd say it seems like one of the most important things, which is like your notebook is going to potentially be stopped after this date, right? Like, you know what I mean? That's quite an
Well,
important user.
it's only important as that date gets near. If that date's, whatever, 24 hours away, I don't really care. If it's 5 minutes away, I do care, right? So yeah, it's kind of
Well, they're
yeah.
not going to be looking at the table regularly enough for it to be, and also it changes
Right.
as soon as you do something, right? That's the whole point of activity, right? So I agree. It's an interesting UI question. We definitely need to have that discussion around the minimum. If there anything like what needs to be surfaced in the front end just on the first release, if we're going to have the probe, it's like it seems like it's one of those like we should be able to do something very minimal just to highlight the feature even
Yep.
exists, right? Like yeah, cool. Okay, so are we on track? Are we in front end? We just need to. So there's warnings and stuff, but that's what does this say? This says interesting. Okay, well, let's discuss this. This one's not a blocker for the beta, but I think it will help users. And I think also very few people during the beta are going to actually use this feature. I think it's just a very advanced feature, right? So I don't like.
Yeah.
This is more of a story situation. So even just mock-ups for the presentation would be sufficient. Okay, moving on. I don't want to. So we need to get through the rest quite quickly. So of the rest of the things, update workspace. That is, don't worry
There's
about
just
that.
one tech debt item. Yeah, it just hasn't been prioritized.
I'm gonna move that to
review.
2.0.
There already is a PR merged or a PR ready. It's just a matter of review.
Yeah, I don't think it blocks the beta in any meaningful way though. So that's just like it's good. It'll be done. It's fine. That we'll come back to that. We've got 10 days. So, or 11 days. So okay. Logs. This one is great, but I think this one raises one interesting question about the front end, which is we do need to make it a little bit easier to get to the logs view in where we plan to put the logs view in the front end. You know what I mean? Like right now, I think we talked about like having just the button beside the three dots with like an open view rather than so that there's like right now you have to go three dots details. Maybe we should just have a button beside the three dots with like a direct details view.
I think for now, like that's an easy thing to do in the future. I think for now we just embed it like we go through there and there's a tab in the real estate that we have right now.
Oh no, I'm not saying for logs specifically. I mean to get to that details view, which will eventually have the logs view as well. That's all I'm saying.
Oh,
like,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, just because like otherwise I think people just won't notice it. Like that's my so we're doing all this work otherwise and no one will see it, right? So, okay, anyway, Andy, what is the status of this for the beta?
We had a good initial kind of similar update to the other ones I've given. I just need to see, I don't know if Yochin has had time to push her changes. But first review, things generally look good, and I haven't swung back to see if it's ready yet or not.
Yeah, things are ready for the second round review.
Thank you. So yeah, this will be something I'm looking at this afternoon. Absolutely. But yeah, there was nothing structurally. Again, the PR comments I made were pretty, insignificant in nature, and I thought the implementation robust and ready to roll. So I imagine we'll get that, merged today then as well.
And front end, oh, sorry, yes, Yushin?
No, I was just saying, like, thank you for reviewing the change.
Cool. And so we had a quick question last time. I know this puts work on front end, but like definitely lower priority than the slugging rule and things. But is this like what's the minimum we think we can do here just to get the logs visible in the front end on the details tab?
So we do have a component already in Patternfly, which should be as easy as installing the dependencies and just rendering the log and feed into just like link it to the text box to the text field of the log. That's it. It sounds very simple, but I haven't sit down and actually do it yet. But it should be, since we're not streaming it. It should be an easy use case.
And just like basics like filters and drop down above it kind of situation.
What kind of filter are we
like for choosing the container and choosing the maximum numbers and previous version of the container. I think there's a couple of flags that the backend API has.
I'm not aware of those, so I need to take a look and then we can probably hash it out. But I would.
If you want to include some version of it into the beta, I think it's also totally fine to just have something in there and then all the cool selection features and so on come after the fact.
Yeah, I think if we have a time constraint, just a simple log viewer probably is smarter than having to implement a full-fledged with filters and drop down and everything that we want for the future. Those could be enhancements.
I mean, the backend API should just have like I think it depends on how complex. Maybe I'm misunderstanding. Like it is to just like whenever filter drop down changes, it just refreshes that element essentially. That it could just do that because it's not. Anyway, so getting something is better than nothing. So I'll trust whoever has. So again, lower priority than the slugging rule and other kind of slight changes, but. This is very still. It's a bit sad if we've built all the backend stuff for logging and it doesn't come in the first beta, but it's fine if it doesn't. So, yep. Okay. Any Andy or actually you're yeah.
I was just I'm interested on the prioritization of slugging rules over log viewing. I think like putting a white space in a name is not nearly as important as seeing the logs in your container for something that's failing, but we don't need to like litigate that.
In my experience, people don't really need the logs. That's kind of what I'm saying. It's really more of an admin kind of situation. But like, this is for like, yeah. Well, we can discuss it if you disagree. But I think it's
I think it's quite easy. I did a test just a bit before this call with a data scientist. They immediately stumbled over how do I name my workspace, and so I think prioritizing that high is then
I'm like I'm pretty confident that is like the biggest user experience problem right now. But like it's essentially completely the rules make no sense to a non-Kubernetes person essentially. So that's kind of why the display name needs to be decoupled.
Yeah, especially that it has to be lowercase was something they were like, okay, then let's have lowercase.
Okay, cool. I'm thinking when I'm looking for things for prioritization, right now I'm thinking about high friction points because it's going to be people's first experience with the product, right? Logs are not something that are going to have immediately needed, right? They're going to be something that they need once they're already using the product, essentially. Okay, cool. Let's move on. So I'm going to put that one as, is that on track then, do we think? I mean, it's kind of, I'd say it's at risk because of the front end aspect, but Andy, you make the call. if you are around still.
Yeah, I think
Yep, sounds
still
good.
at risk. Yeah, overall at risk, but I think the API will land.
Yeah, I
Amazing.
think also generally we made far more progress on this front than we thought. So thanks for all the awesome work on the backend side.
And yeah, getting that API defined, we learned a lot of other things that resulted in some things that we're going to make big improvements, like ability to compress large payloads that are we realized how we could do that, and I don't know if that got merged or not. Did that get merged, Christian? Because I think I just want to highlight that's really important for people, because these are going to be massive payloads at some point if people have thousands of options in their workspaces, but logs obviously could be literally hundreds of megabytes. So that's why we needed to make sure compression would work.
No, I expect we'll get the compression PR merged today as well. We did talk about it, and we wanted to just turn it always on. Christian originally had it behind a feature flag, but now it's always on because I think the fallbacks and everything else there make it sensible to just always be enabled. So yeah, we'll do a final review on that, but there was no outstanding issues. I thought otherwise it looked good.
Is it tracked anywhere under feature, or is it just like an external kind of not feature thing?
I think it just exists as a PR.
Cool, that's fine. Okay, development environment. Yes, so this is gonna, okay, I just want to highlight for everyone who's developing, like we're gonna merge this today. So your development experience after you rebase is going to be quite different. It's going to hopefully not change anything to you other than the fact that the dashboard is deployed by default when you go tilt up. But Christian, do you want to say anything about this, or?
Yeah, no, the other thing that we also mentioned is the changes to the try it out thing. That's kind of adjacent to that. The goal is just to also have a good developer experience once we release the beta, because not only users but also new developers will be looking at the project.
So yeah, just highlighting what Christian's talking about. Right now, the when you tilt up and you go to a section which most people probably don't even know exists, which is the Swagger UI, like backend API tester, which I used a lot when I was working with all these people to, when someone makes a PR, validate that their PR does what I expect. Unfortunately, it broke when we added auth. So that is being fixed. So now when you go to that page, when it's only enabled for dev, when you go tilt up, but when you go to the page to try out a particular backend API path, it will prompt you for auth if you haven't said, it'll ask you, who are you pretending to be, essentially, which is great. So thanks, Christian, for fixing that. And Hamid, you have your hand up.
Yes, hello everyone. Please confirm you can hear me.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, first of all, I want to actually thank Christian, Handy, and Matthew for the warm welcome you guys gave me. I really appreciate that, and thank you for your input all for the past few days. So I raised a
Okay.
PR yesterday, and Christian dropped a comment, which I corrected what you requested for, but and even you, Andy, yesterday you said you look into that later. Have you had a chance to look into it?
Nope.
Thursday afternoons are a big review day. So after this call, we generally Matthew and some of us kind of huddle in a group and really focus on stuff. So that will be the case to interweave in with a lot of these other PRs that we've mentioned. But yeah, Thursday afternoons is always a big PR review day for me.
Yeah, so let's sync offline with what PR it is. It can Andy, which one is this? Sorry, just so is this one in the main critical path?
No, this is some ramp up work for new community contributions. So it's just some make file stuff that's kind of been lagging. So yeah, not on the board.
Okay, cool. Let's keep that. Let's try. We only have like 10 minutes in this shared meeting with everyone here, so let's just keep moving on for this one. Metrics, Rika, are you here?
Yes, I am here. So for this, we finally logged in on the design for the architecture. For the workspace pod metrics, thanks Andy so much and Matthew for the discussion that we had last week. I broke down the feature into multiple tasks and I've started the work on the first task here, which is implementing the metrics provider, which is using the metrics server as the source for getting information about pod resource usage. But there is a few other tasks here, essentially each of these tasks are like one major big PR, and this in my mind was like a good breakdown of the things that we wanted to land. One of the tasks is also like just an optimization, which is just adding a cache to the backend so that we're not making continuous calls to the metric server when we know the response is not going to be changing so much. So I think this is more of an optimization, so not really a priority for beta. But the other two tasks for backend should have to be definitely gotten in before that. And then
Yeah,
there
do we
is
have
another.
any?
Yeah, go
Oh, yeah,
ahead.
sorry. Yeah, you go. No, you first.
Oh, and then just the other task about the front end, which I don't know if it has enough details in it or not, but needs an owner, and maybe some discussion about how we want to expose this information in the UI.
Yep, I'll
But I also want
piggyback and
to.
add some thoughts in a comment there for discussion. I think this is all fine, but whatever, I'll grab a screenshot and drop some stuff there. But like I said, I think we just keep it super simple, keep the tabular layout. It won't be pretty, but we get the stuff rendered so the information's there, and then we can iterate and be better moving forward. But no, I appreciate the breakdown of stuff. And yeah, I think that second follow-up item will be a fairly quick review as well as we get this the first one landed. Just open up the API handlers and stuff. We have a good kind of grasp of what consistency and how that looks. So I feel good about both of those.
Yeah, but there's
Okay.
one concern. So I'm going on vacation starting tomorrow, and I'll only be back next Thursday. So I don't know if that puts the feature on risk. I do have the backend implementation PR ready, so if we could get that merged today, I could get started on exposing the handlers today, and
Yep,
then get that out.
I'll get that. Yeah, I'll get that merged. And then if you want to push a PR with what you have, if you don't mind, we could look to have someone maybe branch off your branch and obviously still give you attribution. But if we
Yeah,
can find someone to then take that work over the finish line and you're comfortable with it, that way it's, I don't want you stressing out before vacation. But yeah, any initial implementation coming from you, I think is a godsend, is that'll obviously be aligned with where we want it to be.
sounds good.
Amazing. So let's make sure we put that at the top of the review list today for that
Yeah, and
other one.
again, that
So
was another one where it's just like really minimal. I mean, I imagine we can get that merged in the next 10, 15 minutes after we drop off the call because it was a very targeted PR, minor corrections being asked. So we'll get on that ASAP. Yep. Thank you for the call out, though, and I hope you enjoy your vacation.
Thank you.
amazing. This is why we have kind of like feature owners and like it's not like people. It's an open source project. We expect that people are going to need to take breaks. We want to always be able to like cycle people in and out, or they might have work things. Like it's healthy to like the only unhealthy thing would be if we didn't have someone else who could also do the work. Like that's the goal. And sometimes some people are amazing engineers and there's no one else in the world who can do it. That is sometimes the case. I'll admit. So but it's amazing. Thank you so much for your work on this. Okay, so of the features that we have listed here, are there any that we are forgetting that are blockers that are not the docs one? Because obviously getting the docs page up is critical, but okay, the only other one that is not a feature, it's just a task that we should just track it somewhere in the front end tasks. It just needs to be done before the beta, which is that let's get that details page actually on a kind of just button beside the 3 dots, just because I think no one will go there otherwise. And we've done all this work to get things in the details that are not going to be seen. I just feel like, is anyone, how that looks, I don't really mind, but just, I think if you look at Oracle or other kind of cloud consoles, or Google or whatever, you see like there's often the 3 dots, but then there's often a kind of direct open the overview of the thing that you're clicking on button beside it. So yeah, that's not related to this. I just wanted to highlight that it seems like one of those things that actually that comes back to this other thing, which is we should be reviewing the front end as soon as we can, just to kind of like everyone. Once we do the dashboard PR, we're going to merge today. When you go tilt up, you can do dashboard. Let's all start a thread. So like if someone wants to track this as an item, let's start a thread where we have everyone who has a bit of time over the next week to start up the current head state of the notebooks and front end and try it out on whatever test cluster you have, or on your local machine or whatever, right? I think that's going to give us a lot of and then we can kind of prioritize any front end changes or experience hurdles essentially.
I can do that. It kind of answers the question that I asked in our internal chat a little bit earlier about where do I put this feedback that I collected from the data scientist friend.
That's actually really that's a separate question around like external real user feedback, but definitely we should maybe having a Google Doc or something where certain people have edit access to be able to add a new tab for like interviews almost seems like a reasonable thing as we start doing the beta, but
I mean, I think if it's being reported through one of us, I feel like logging it as a not one of our task hierarchy things, but just as a bug or enhancement request, and like we can, create some new other tag or something too to kind of like that it's like validated, right? Like user feedback or something like that. But it'd be great to just get it in GitHub in some capacity.
Okay, so we've got 4 minutes before I don't want to leave. I don't want to take more time than necessary. So, of the action items we've talked about, what is there anything we haven't talked about other than there's 1 or 2 action items for me that are once I've kind of unblocked the things that we've talked about today, I'm gonna halfway through raising the PR for the website to add the Kubeflow Notebooks V2 or Workspaces section. There will be some tasks that will come out of that. I'm pretty fast at writing docs overall, so like I can add things in there and it will be related to the topics that we're talking about on the presentation. But the thing that I want to highlight is that we can't document something unless it exists, at least in the beta, right? So for example, these like activity rules, I'm not going to add a doc page for that yet, but I do want to really have a place to, when we're presenting the beta and or someone's watching the recording, that they go and see that we hint at it existing, that feature, and we hint why you would care about it. And then we say, hey, here's a documentation page that has an example workspace kind that shows like advanced, like the section I'm thinking of is like an admin operator guides. And then there's a section under there which says like advanced workspace kind features. And then we have one for activity rules and one for filter rules and one for other things. So if people who, it's going to be obviously users that really do a lot of feedback there, I think, but we might need to make sure we track some tasks there to document as we start before we close out some of these features. Andy or anyone else got anything they want to add before we is there any other items that I am blocking? Oh yeah,
I have a question. So Antonio has the Gateway API
oh yes
PR, and I don't know if how important it is for beta release. It's really important for like GKE users, I think. Like if we can get that in, and it's gonna be like easier for people who are already using Gateway API.
So the Gateway API is absolutely a GA blocker, I would say, because it is a thing that if we don't do, people are going to fork the project to add, essentially. But the thing about Gateway API is that it only just with 1.6 added support for the things necessary to make auth work. With its XDauthZ things. I assume that the PR that's been raised doesn't add auth, right?
No, it's more, I think, about adding the replacement for the virtual subs and so on for the notebook.
But the thing is, if you do that, the product doesn't really work because
you can deploy it as a standalone operator in your cluster instead of the dash, like the community dashboard.
I guess you could, but there would be no authentication.
You can wire it yourself.
You could wire it to your own, right? So that's essentially that's what I was trying to get at, really. Essentially, that absolutely that is a supported thing, and that's why I think we did actually talk about having a flag to enable gateway, so that if someone does fork, they don't have to do a very complicated flag. They just can hard code gateway on and then inject their own sidecar. Like I think that's what Red Hat does, for example. But right now they have to do an upstream. They have a midstream fork that's like needlessly complicated because the fact we don't have this gateway flag. But it's definitely not a beta blocker, but because essentially to use it, you need to be a vendor, right? Like that essentially you're going to have to fork the project right now to implement authentication outside of Istio if you don't and authorization, actually authentication and route rules essentially, right? Which paths you're allowed to access without it. But so actually, if this is almost ready, like I guess what's the status on this? I know it just got raised. So does anyone want to talk about this quickly or?
It's
I
a
had
really
tagged.
big change.
I tagged Harshad in Slack as he had time to review this, just because he was familiar with kind of what he did. And so yeah, so I was hoping to get him to look at this to understand if it's kind of conceptually aligned. But that's all I've.
So
I
I
guess
just want to.
if this is not beta blocking, it's probably fine. Just yeah, we just want to know if like how urgent it is. If not urgent, we can always wait till people, you know, have bandwidth after the beta and GA.
Yeah, so there's two aspects of this that I just want to double click on. One is like why when you say I know like was there a use case that you weren't explicitly stating that you were thinking of? Like when you said like GKE issues?
I mean, if you use Istio on GKE, I think there's some issues with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that, but like that's what Antonio told me.
Okay. Cool. So this is great. Let's start tracking this in a feature because this can't be the only task, essentially, right? So the feature should be because then it becomes clear what the acceptance criteria is, right? Right now is like, is it for vendors like Red Hat and Google or others who are going to implement their own auth, you know what I mean? Or is it for users, essentially, right? And in which case, for users, the acceptance criteria is going to require authentication authorization without forking the whole project. You know what I mean? So essentially, that is going to be supported in the Gateway API. In fact, it was just added in the last release, right? But no Istio version yet supports the 1.6 version of the Gateway API, as far as I'm aware, right? So what I'm talking about there is ext auth z integration. To be clear, you're still going to need to use OAuth2 proxy and DEX, but at least you'll be able to inject the user ID headers. But is any other thoughts here?
I can raise the feature. It was supposed to be raised by me, but I was a little out. I'll try to do that today and try to link this. And I also mentioned it to Andy. I'll try to review this so that we are aligned.
So do we make an epic? I think we should make a new epic, which is like, I think if we don't already have one, like gateway, like non-Istio. Essentially, I think this category of thing is like non-Istio usage or something. Or not even non-Istio. It's not even right. People just want to use the Gateway API even with Istio, right? So it's kind of like, okay, anyway, we're over time. This is good. Let's continue discussing this. I don't think we should prioritize this in the next 10 days unless you don't have something else to work on. If you don't have something else to work on, this is fine to continue working on. But let's only prioritize tracking it and defining what its acceptance criteria is, right? You know what I mean? Like, unless we do that and then suddenly decide this is fine to merge, in which case, cool, right? But, any other comments, Winjer or others? Hashad, go in. Thank you for raising
get
it.
started on the feature and then, yeah, definitely go through it.
Yeah, so we might need to agree on what the feature actually is, but
yeah.
So maybe there's a thread already going there, so maybe
I think we also already defined quite some of the parts of the feature in our internal doc, at least as a basis for what Harshad wanted to file at some point.
We did, yeah.
I guess part of the discussion with Enrico and Antonio now as well is also added new information, and as you mentioned, the changes to the Gateway API. So I guess we need to revisit some of that, but we already have some parts on tracking that.
Especially now that we have a tilt up for the dashboard, it seems like getting at least a the overall project is beta, but a really beta version feature, which literally deploys like OAuth2 proxy and DEX in the tilt up mode. I think this is I think that's a clear pathway to do it without requiring Istio directly. You know what I mean? Like essentially if we can, like that seems like a reasonable test path, right? Which is essentially have a version that feels like a fork, but is actually just for the dev environment only that does something with the Gateway API.
Yeah, Antonio introduces that in his PR, but I think overall
he
the
does?
tricky thing here is
Oh,
that
it does.
it's kind of a feature that reaches a lot of different areas in the project, and since we will be limited kind of by review capacity, I don't think realistically that we can land this until beta.
Yeah, that's probably reasonable.
I think but in terms of discussion in the public announcements of the tool, I think we need to, in fact, everyone needs to think about what message, like the technical stuff is technical stuff, right? What is the story that is being told by this feature? We don't make features for no reason. Like, yes, it's to support Red Hat to not have to, like, they have a direct need right now, which is they are making a fork of the current project to add a feature. We need to make that not be the case. That shouldn't be necessary. Separate to that, there's the story of other things. Like, so what is the story? Like, because this is not the answer to the I want to use notebooks without the rest of Kubeflow yet. That's not possible for other reasons, you know. But like dashboard, I mean. But it is, and also there really isn't any. Yeah. So like because what is the user reason why when I deploy notebooks I would want to do it in this mode, right? And like if you're a vendor, it's not, you just don't have a choice. That's because I'm not the user in that story. But like, is there a user story here? Because that's what we'll highlight if we have anything to highlight. And so let's start a thread on that, or just agree. I think Christian said we had some notes, so maybe we should dump those notes into a public channel and then just say, what is people's feedback? On that. Okay, thanks everyone. I'm going to stop the recording unless anyone's got anything they absolutely burning to say. Thank you so much. Okay, let's land the thing. There's going to be so much attention on this once the beta happens. So it's like prepare for an influx of people and contributors and users and feedback. But yeah. Okay. Thanks, people.
Appreciate you all.